If you've ever wondered about the real life impact to fitness on your health, wellness, and ability to be in the game, then this is the show for you. Welcome, friends. It's the Movement is Medicine show, and I am joined here by an incredible cast of characters at the Movement is Medicine studio. We got Stephen Hitt and Jerberg joining us as special guests from Industrious.
Hello, hello.
What's up, gentlemen?
Feels great to be here.
So good to have you guys.
Love having you guys here. And I got Dr. Tim in the house, and I think Dr. James might even drop in for this podcast as well.
Yeah, he's here.
He's here. I think we're going to go check on something real
There
quick.
he is.
He's in and out. He's a player. Nice. So everybody knows that fitness and health are connected, right? We all know that. But it definitely seems that post-pandemic, it's even more top of mind for people around how our physicality, our physical fitness transfers to our physical health, you know, and our ability to have an awesome life and our mental health, everything. So today we have an opportunity to kind of get into it from a couple different perspectives. You know, all of us are athletes, right? All of us are active and love working out. And then, of course, Steve O'Jerry, you guys run the premier fitness institute here in the Seattle area. And of course, James and Tim, you guys are keeping people, in the flow, right? And helping them get back to the activities they love.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that's kind of a little bit of our end of things, is making sure that, people are able to work out and do what they can without injury and without pain. But on the other end, what these two guys do, I mean, I think that's really, in a lot of ways, the most important thing, just because that's one of the things we preach. I mean, the show is called Movement is Medicine, and that's one of the things we preach the most, is that people stay moving and that people do exercise. And there's so many different benefits to people exercising, and our job is just to help people continue to do that. There's a lot of different people that come in with various different types of pain, and one of the big things I always tell people is, like, if you can get active and you can actually exercise, it's going to help your pain level go down significantly.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing that we preach too. So I really love what you guys do, and that's like the program that they have, the programming they have, the gym that they set up. They do an amazing job of it. So excited to have you guys here. It's awesome.
Yeah, Steve O'Jerry, why don't you guys break down for us a little bit, just about kind of the Industrious protocol, the Industrious gym. It's not like your traditional Globo gym, right? So if you're not familiar with Industrious, it's a different thing you guys got going on.
Yeah. So, at Industrious, the types of workouts that we do are all functional movements, so those are the movements that we do within our workouts. And, the thing that I think is the biggest differentiating factor with Industrious is that, we've set everybody up in a system that allows people to have their own dedicated space where they feel empowered to go at whatever intensity or level of intensity is the right word, that they feel is appropriate for them. So for somebody like me, I'm 42 years old, I can get into my station, we call it the Halo, and I can go as a 42-year-old should go, which is I'm going for vitality and I want to keep my range of motion. I want to keep my fitness. I want to preserve as much strength as possible, because as you get older, what happens is you're not just going to get stronger just by waking up every day like a young person is, right? And so now we got to hold on to as much as we got. We got to hold on to as much muscle as we got, and as much cardiorespiratory endurance as we got, knowing that it's a losing game because you're getting older in life, right? And so for me, I can get into my Halo, do CrossFit workouts, do weightlifting workouts, and do it with the group, which is great because we all want that shared energy. It's motivating, and but I can go at my own pace. Now, on the flip side of that, somebody that's a little bit more youthful and wants to push their bodies and wants to compete and train hard and aggressive, they can do the exact same stuff at an intensity that is appropriate for them, and I'm not going to get in their way with all of my scaling stuff that I got to do, and so I think that's what makes Industrious special, is we've really honed in on a broad range of demands of what people are actually looking for in fitness, and we've set everybody up for success within that model.
Yeah, I would think that you bring up so many cool and interesting points around really what impact that the Industrious style training has on your body, right? Because, when we think about our health, when we think about our physicality, one thing you mentioned was muscle. And muscle mass and lean muscle mass, strength, right, is directly related to all-cause mortality. So as we age, we lose muscle, and the less muscle we have, the more at risk we are for all kinds of injuries and all kinds of disabilities that can lead to our untimely death as we get into our 70s, 80s, and 90s. And we probably see some issues here in the clinic with people who have a need for more muscle mass and more strength.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, we see that all the time. I mean, it's, like exactly like you were saying, like maintaining lean muscle mass as you get older. There's multiple different benefits to it other than just being fit and having like an active lifestyle. There's also certain like hormone release throughout the body that happens as you maintain lean muscle mass that actually does help to fight off diseases. Like that's actually scientifically proven. So yeah, we are big proponents of that, of like making sure that, increased muscle mass is something that we want to do. That's why it's like, we are chiropractors here at Head to Toe, but we also really specialize in soft tissue work to make sure we're releasing muscles, but then especially rehab as well. And really what that comes down to is strengthening muscles that are underactive. Now, at the beginning of the show, you mentioned, with the pandemic and everything like that, there's been a lot of shifts that have happened throughout our society, throughout our community, right? One of the big shifts that happened is a lot of people got less active. Okay. A lot of people that might have been working in an office, as little of a change as that might seem, working in an office where you might be going to meetings, you're up and moving a little bit more, you're up between different people's desks, and now you're working from home. Now you're just sitting all day. And a lot of people started to come in to see us with just like random like neck pain, back pain, hip pain, whatever it happened to be. And most of them didn't really understand why. They're like, I've never had this pain before. And I would always ask them, it's like, okay, well, like, did you start working from home? They'd be like, yeah. It's like, well, where are you working? On the couch? It's like, oh, well, okay. So you basically went from the bed to the couch and then from the couch back to the bed, and you've been doing that for the past 3 months. It's like, that makes a little bit of sense. So not only are you kind of decreasing muscle mass, you're also just in a sedentary position. So those are all things that are going to increase your pain. And I think, during the time when gyms were kind of shut down for a little bit too, which was just, it sucked when that happened. A lot less people kind of got off their workout routines, so people weren't maintaining as much muscle. They weren't as active. They weren't maintaining as much flexibility. So we saw a lot of people coming in for those reasons as well. So yeah, I mean, maintaining an active lifestyle, maintaining muscle mass is hugely important. Yeah.
Yeah, I think spinning off that too is just the change, like Tim was saying, the change in activity level. So if you were in the gym and working on building muscle and building strength, a lot of people tried to transition. You either stopped working out and moved from the couch to the bed, or you kind of built your own home gym and we're running more, or we're doing like, you're kind of switching up your activity levels as well. And even with that, like more endurance training, you're still losing muscle mass. So kind of, I guess, spinning off that topic, it's been, even for myself, like I dropped like probably 10 pounds from working out, and lifting 5 days a week, and then gyms were closed, and I lost access to those weights. So I was like, okay, I still want to maintain my activity levels, but I have to do it in a different way. And then, so then now I'm running more, or I'm doing like more like plyometric, kind of like body weight activities, and that props up or like opens up a whole new Pandora's box of like different like tissue injuries. Now I'm loading my body in different ways. So that was also that transition during the pandemic and everything.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I have the in-body measurements, and I can see that I dropped about 7 pounds of muscle during that time, and gained about like 20 pounds of fat. So I mean, it was like definitely like a good, a negative shift in terms of my body composition. But I'm close to back. I'm about 2 pounds under where I was in terms of lean muscle mass. And so that's one of the things that's really exciting about training in Industrious is you do get a lot of dedicated strength training that is built on a progressive overload foundation, which means over time you increase the amount of weights that you do around these core fundamental lifts that build that strength. But it's not just that. There is also the cardio element. So Jeremy, talk to us a little bit about some of the impact that we see, the positive benefit that we see in the gym, in our programming at Industrious around our cardio, our engine.
Yeah, so I mean, to take people through who don't know, like our classes are 50 minutes long, and we're going to touch on so many different movements throughout the week. But our style traditionally has been a strength piece first, and then our fitness or our conditioning or our interval training, kind of however you want to say it that way. So it's always like the heavy lifting, and then we get into the sweaty, high heart rate type stuff. And now you'll see some variations in that where we've taken a new model where we kind of like going a double strength piece. So we'll go back squats first, then we'll go into deadlifts, and then we'll go into a little bit shorter cardio piece. But there's almost always that strength piece in there. And the benefit that we get out of that is, Industrious been around for 11 years, and our programming has changed and morphed, and it's pretty much just like an 11-year science project, right? You put all these people through, you see how they're responding, how they're reacting, you make small adjustments here over time, and then you really just start to dial it in. And so we really feel like we've dialed in what works really well for the majority of people, and we do some personal training here and there, but what we do is we do group fitness. So it's broad fitness, it's strength, it's conditioning. But really the benefit that we see is your cardiovascular system is the baseline for all of your health, right? It's your ability to take in oxygen through your lungs, get it into your blood, and then your heart's got to pump that blood to your muscles, and that's how you get whatever fitness you're trying to do. So if you can keep your heart and your lungs as strong as possible, that's really actually going to play a big benefit into your strength numbers as well. So having that strong cardiovascular base is very important. And then to all we've been talking about, the muscle and building the muscle and maintaining the muscle longer, or building it early so you can maintain that longer is super, super important.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing too is that it all does ultimately circle back with fitness and strength development and increasing muscle mass and decreasing fat and improving cardiovascular health. It all comes back to programming. You can't get away from that. It comes back to that fundamental core foundational element that the programming has to be dialed. And in the context of group fitness, which is what we do at Industrious, if you don't have the right system in place, if you don't have the right equipment, and if it makes it impossible to effectively program, because you're always going to make programming compromises, because you got to do the 4-station rotation to get the 16 people through, and because you only got 4 rowers, and you really start to get compromised in what you're actually able to write for the masses. Now, the people that can follow an individualized program and stuff like that and have open gym and they got then they're fine. They go wherever they go and they figure it out. However, but for the masses, you can't program stuff that keeps everybody leveling up if you don't have the right system in place. And so, I think it's something, as basic as we did yesterday, which was we started with power cleans and then we transitioned into a triplet of overhead or front squats, that athlete's choice, and then pull-ups and burpees. You can't write that in group fitness. You just can't. You think that, well, sure you can. That's just a basic CrossFit triplet. Well, you actually can't, because you can't have people doing burpees while people are overhead squatting right behind them, because they could get the bar dropped on them, as an example. And you can't, everybody's going to have that pull-up space, and you might get rotations there, but that make it flow, but you're going to get pauses that interrupt people's ability to really zone in and focus on their workout. And when that happens, the intensity starts to drop, and then now the focus starts to drop. And so you wouldn't write what we wrote yesterday, that basic power cleans and then a basic CrossFit triplet. You would never write that if you didn't have the system in place. And that's what makes the Halo so special for us, that we're really excited about, is we have uncompromised programming. We can write whatever we want to write because of the system. Now, even on partner days, when we put 2 people in a Halo, because there's only 2 people with all that equipment and it's all dedicated to them, we can actually run 2 people. It's you go, I go lifting, or you go, I go interval training, because you have to do that stuff anyway. If you're going to write effective stuff, you still have to write stuff that makes people sprint. And so one person can be sprinting while the other person is resting, as an example. And so I do think that, it all comes back to programming, and it all comes back to the environment that you're in that helps you keep coming back. So the environment has to keep you motivated, has to keep you engaged, and the programming has to be non-compromised. And I think that that's been the biggest qualm that we've seen in the functional fitness or CrossFit space. people come into like the group classes and then they feel they do need to go and, move on to things that are more tailored towards them. But it's because the programming oftentimes is compromised, and it's not a knock on anybody. It's just that's what they're doing the best that they can with what they got. And so I think that, that's what makes, our system a little bit more unique, is that we can write whatever we want for the masses, and it's not compromised. It's very well thought out programming.
I look at, for most people, who want to pursue fitness, want to get healthier, right? And so whether they're looking at fitness from a health standpoint, or for like most of us, when we think about our fitness and working out, we have a lot of different goals wrapped up. Of course, we have our mental health, our physical health, we have our aesthetics, how we look, how we feel, how we look in our clothes, that whole thing. It's all kind of bundled together. And you think, okay, well, what gets in the way for people to achieve their goals from a fitness standpoint? And one of them is the program that they're on. So if you're a beginner and you're thinking about going to a gym and working out, it can be incredibly overwhelming to know what to do, when to do it, right? And often you go on the internet and there's 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 different ideas about what makes a good program and what you should do or shouldn't do. And then you have things like your form. Are you even doing it properly if you're on a good program? Because ultimately fitness is a recipe, right? And so you're following a recipe to produce a result. It's kind of like baking. And if you have a bad recipe, you're going to turn out bad results. If you have a great recipe, you're going to be able to dial it in, and grandma's bread's going to come out really, really great, right? So fitness is the same way. And I think one of the challenges then for people who are more experienced and maybe they come from a CrossFit background is there can be a lot of inconsistencies in programming in a traditional CrossFit background or even a group fitness background. I think of something like an Orange Theory. Now, Orange Theory is cardio heavy and it is very weight light. And so when I think about people who are going to Orange Theory and are pursuing their fitness, I think it's a great step, towards their goals, but typically not the step that's actually going to get them to where they want to be, because the programming itself in Orange Theory, I believe, is inherently limited in the results it can ultimately produce for people, right? So that's one of the things I think that's super cool about Industrious that I've appreciated over the years, is that it has the right mix of programming, the right amount of structure that can take both a brand new person or an experienced person down a path, right? Because the recipe is there that will get them to the destination that they want and will produce the outcome that they want.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for somebody who's been going there for a while too, I do have to say your guys' programming is great. You guys do an amazing job of that. And I think what's really awesome too is kind of what Barry was just saying there a little bit too, is like you can have somebody that's just walked in for their first time or somebody that's been doing like CrossFit or functional fitness for years, and they can still get the most that they can get out of that workout, because you guys provide workouts where if you want to push the intensity, you can, and you can go hard and you can have a challenging workout. But then what's really cool about what you guys have been doing now too is you've been providing scalable options, right? So it's like every workout is scalable. The movement's scalable. Even some of the, if you're doing a certain amount of calories on a machine, that's scalable. So you can tailor the workout to yourself. So everybody's essentially doing a similar workout, but at the same time, you're doing your own workout. And I think that's a really cool thing you guys have done. And that's really important from our standpoint too, because it's really great that you have these scalable options, because not everybody should be doing the same thing, right? You might not see that at other gyms where it's like, it's one workout that's up there. Maybe they haven't provided all these scalable options, or it's not movements that are super scalable themselves, or they haven't said, oh, you can do this lift instead of that lift. You have people trying stuff that they shouldn't necessarily be doing, or weights they shouldn't necessarily be doing, and they get hurt. And then they end up seeing us, right? So I think what you guys have done is awesome. I think it's great. There's these scalable options, and it makes it so it's less injuries, which is great. And again, from our standpoint, that's exactly what we like to see, is like people getting the most out of their fitness that they can in a way that's healthiest for their particular body. So I think it's been really awesome to see you guys do that. So it's been a fun experience to see that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. The reason that we got to this point is because we are fortunate enough to have been in the fight, figuring this stuff out for nearly the last 12 years. And, you are right. In the old days, we had a whiteboard. We'd write the workout on the whiteboard, and we'd write everybody's times and scores and weights and all that stuff down. Now, that data I do feel like is helpful. It is, and it is motivating. We've seen it both in the context of whiteboard and like tracking results, as well as in like things where you just get recognized if you come to the gym and you put a sticker next to your name. So these things work, they're effective, but they can have a negative impact if it's framed up incorrectly. So if you say that we're going to overhead squat today, then everybody feels like it's overhead squat. If I can't overhead squat, I'm not going to go to the gym today because I can't do that movement, and I don't want to be the only one doing something else. And so they won't come, and then that's counterproductive. And then for other people, they'll kill themselves trying to overhead squat. And to your point, they'll hurt themselves or kill themselves. And so these, and we've seen these things firsthand over the years. And so, that's what got, as part of when we installed the Halo system, we got rid of the whiteboard. And over the years, as we were calling out scores for people to like call out their times and, and put that up on the board so that we had that layer of accountability that, you're going to have to get your time up there. Towards the end there, one of the reasons that we stopped doing it was because only about half of the people were actually calling out the scores. The rest of them were saying like, just give me a smiley face. Just give me a smiley face. And so, it showed us that about half of the people demand that. The other half don't want that. And they're stoked that they just got into the gym. And at the time, if I rewind a couple of years, when I was still 39, I was still sort of in that category where I'm like, I want to compete. I want to see what Jeremy did. I want to see if how close I can get. And that stuff is fun. It really is. And I'm still kind of competitive, but now I get into the gym and I'm just excited that I can get a workout in that day because now I got 2 kids and we're running the business and but things change. And so I do think that, that's a really good point. Now rather than whiteboard, what we're doing is we're displaying options for all movement that is the appropriate scale. So in overhead squat or front squat, if you can't overhead squat yet, let's start you with front squat and let's teach you that squat and teach you that shoulder flexibility and mobility first and midline stability. And then as that becomes boring and as you start to get more flexible, as the ankle mobility comes, as the movement patterns are more safe, now let's get a bar overhead and let's teach you how to stabilize your shoulders and see if we can pass through that range of motion of a squat. And so, but you got to give people options. I'm a big believer in that. It needs to be loud and clear. So you're just as proud doing the front squat as you are the overhead squat, or you're just as proud doing the power clean as you are the squat snatch. And the other thing too is, environments are important and systems are important. And if people are going to keep coming and if it's going to be sustainable for them, you got to be able to get through all of this teaching and shit before. Sorry,
you're good.
Wrong show. Wrong show.
No, you're good.
We're used to our own podcast. Sorry,
you're all good. I'm sure we've let some of those slip. You're fine.
Yeah, and you got to get through this stuff in less than 2 minutes, or people are starting to get cold. So these are all really, really challenging things that you have to do and create. And so you got to get through it quick. You got to get the learning across quick. You got to show people what they can do, what's safe for them quick, and you got to get going. Because there's 2 things that'll make people just leave your gym. First one is if you hurt them. Like if they're hurt, they're not going to come to the gym. And the second is if it's constant boredom in the gym, if it becomes 40 minutes of talking and 20 minutes of sweating, one, they're not going to get very good results because the heart rate's not high enough long. They might get strong, but they're probably going to put on quite a bit of fat. And so you've got that. And then the other thing too is it just becomes boring, and they'll end up getting swallowed up by one of your competitors who keeps it moving.
Totally. When you're talking about competition, people who want to, see how they do against somebody else versus people who just want to be recognized for being there. One of the things I think at Industrious, it's notable is the environment, right? So we talk about consistency. Ultimately, when we think about fitness, one of the key components of fitness is consistently taking action. And I do think that at Industrious, you guys have really created an environment that helps people get there because it's entertaining and fun. Jeremy, talk a little bit about how you guys intentionally craft an environment that is compelling.
Yeah. One of our core values is energy, and a couple different ways that we bring that is, one, it starts with the staff. So when we hire people on, typically we hire from within our community, people that have been coming to the gym. They understand the system. They start to understand, the values and the culture and all these other sorts of things. And it's also kind of a pre-screening for us to get to know them and what they can bring to the table for our team and then therefore our community. So we have really high energy coaches who are they're there. They're fired up about, fitness. They're fired up about the people coming in and changing their lives and the steps that these people are taking. Number one, by coming into the gym to improve their life and make it better. But also we're there to teach them better movement, better mechanics, and all those sorts of things. Things that are fun for people. Music. Who doesn't love to work out to good music? I think if someone was working out with no music, people are going to look at that person a little bit weird, like it's just a normal thing.
That's really true.
I have literally
While I'm suffering.
drove back home from like back in the day when I was at a Globo. It's like I forgot my headphones. It's like I can't even do this workout. I have to drive back home because music is so essential.
Yeah, and I've been to gyms that either they don't play any music at all, or it's so quiet that we might as well be working out in an elevator, and it's just so distracting and it feels awkward. So you just can't focus on your workout. But we have our own music streaming company that we created out of the need to fulfill that high energy atmosphere. It's called Beats RX, and they're just mixes of music that are specifically curated for the flow of our classes, the warm up, the strength piece, and then the high intensity conditioning, where even down to the detail of like beats per minute, as the mix goes on, it increases. So your intensity also increases. But group training, you get that many people in a room together doing the same thing, and barbells clanging and kettlebells swinging and people on the pull-up bar. And it's just a good time. And it's something that people want to come back to.
I agree. And, I think one of the things that as we're getting ready to wrap here that I wanted to get some perspective on is for our populations out there who are already engaged in maybe a primary sport. So I know, James, you work with a lot of athletes in a variety of different fields. So when you think about how cross training can help supplement an athlete's ability to be resilient, talk to us a little bit about how maybe something like this could play into a person's training.
I mean, you just hit the nail on the head right there. I think with athletes, especially today, and younger athletes growing up and being so specialized in one sport, that's where you see those overuse injuries. So working out at a place like Industrious, or just cross training in general, and learning more movements is going to be better overall for your health, and it's going to make you more competitive, and it's going to make you an overall more rounded athlete and person. So we have a lot of like baseball players, and so you play baseball year round, they're coming in with shoulder injuries, and it's like that's all they do is just throw a ball. A lot of torsion, a lot of rotation, just over and over and over again. So if you start introducing some different activities, different motions in different planes, you're going to start seeing less of those overuse injuries, and it's going to make them more just well-rounded in general. So introducing like those overhead squats, snatches, that's going to introduce like more mobility in different areas. That's huge. So, and even if you look at like some of the best athletes that we've seen that are professionals, they weren't a one sport athlete. They were a 3-4 sport athlete growing up. You maybe played baseball in college, football. Those are the guys that are really rocking it. And I think if there's any parents out there listening that are pushing their kids just to like play one sport, like look at those athletes that have really had a lot of success in what they did growing up. They weren't just a one sport athlete. They were switching it up year, there's 4 seasons in a year. So each season should be, dedicated to a different sport. I know Tim wrestled.
I did.
I wrestled, but I also played baseball and football on the off season. So I was always looking forward to that next season, because it's like, okay. And also with the boredom factor, it's like, if I'm just doing the same thing year round, you get burnt out. So switching it up is huge, I think, just for the mental aspect of it as well.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about, that's what, CrossFit, one of the big attractions that you had back in the day when you got involved in a kind of a CrossFit style thing was the variability, right? And how it could tap you into a lot of different movements. And so for people who are maybe time crunched, or athletes out there who are time crunched and they need to find a way to introduce that element, this could be something they look at.
Oh, 100%. I think that's one of the great things about it, is that you see a lot of high school. We don't even need to talk about high school specifically, but we do see a lot of high school athletes. This translates to college as well. College is a little bit different because because a lot of times they have very specific, training that they do at that point. You're usually a little bit more specialized. But even in terms of like high schoolers, I think like CrossFit is something that's great because a lot of times, or like functional fitness in general, because a lot of times what they're doing is they're just doing like essentially what boils down to like bodybuilding, right? In terms of like the lifting programs that they have, because a lot of them aren't like super up to date on like different functional movements and everything like that. So that's why I think a certain training methodology like what you guys do at Industrious is better for that, because not only you're going to be gaining strength through multiple different movements that you're going to be doing that actually translates more to sport, you're also going to be working on your cardiovascular health and your endurance as well, which translates to sport as well. So in terms of an overall training methodology versus just going into the gym and doing like bench press, curls, and whatever else, it actually translates much better. So I think that's what's great about something like that.
Yeah, we like to think of ourselves as the sport for all sport, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And I think it does make sense.
Well, gentlemen, thank you for coming down to be on the show. Obviously, we love what you guys do here at Head to Toe. We've had a long and phenomenal relationship with Industrious. You guys have been a great partner, great friend to us over the years, and we love to see the growth that you guys are doing. We love to send our patients to you when they are looking to take their fitness to that spot where it really translates into health, where it really translates into results, and where it really can change their lives. You guys do an amazing job. So thanks for coming down and being on the show. Thanks for sharing. And if somebody's interested in checking Industrious out, what's the best way that they can do that?
Workhardlivefit.com. Fill out, just book a free class right on the website and come on in.
Yeah, super easy. Drop in. It's a really positive, cool. It's not a boot campy environment, So when Jeremy was talking about high energy coaches, they're not screaming at you and telling give me another rep. It's really super supportive, really positive, and one of the things that's it's very much not like a CrossFit gym in the sense that it's not intimidating, right? So you can walk in there without any experience lifting, and you're going to have an incredible experience.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Until next
everybody.
time, remember, movement is the best medicine.